el manual de EnglishConnect 3, haga lo siguiente. Recuerde que la lectura está diseñada para su experiencia al escuchar a un hablante típico de inglés sin ayudar a su capacidad para comprender o conversar en inglés. Recuerda, la conversación es confianza. Habla en voz alta y libremente. Nadie quiere que fracasen, especialmente su Padre Celestial. Lee siempre los subtítulos. Pausa el video cuando sea necesario. Reduzca la velocidad del lector en el video cuando sea necesario si usa YouTube. Aunque es posible que otras plataformas no tengan esta opción. Repetición, repetición, repetición. Repite, repite, repite. Marca las palabras con las que tienes problemas cuando la pronunciación o el significado sean confusos o desconocidos. Pero no detengas la fluidez de la oración. Simplemente regrese y comience la oración de nuevo con las correcciones necesarias.
A goal not written is only a wish.
Record your progress or your progress will fail.
This is EnglishConnect 3. Page 63, we're going to go to 75. All right. Thinking errors. Objectives. Lesson 12, thinking errors. Objectives. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify and describe different types of thinking errors. You will be able to examine why you and others commit thinking errors and explain the negative impact they have. Memorize vocabulary. Look up the definition of the words. Antidote, consider, indicate, perceive, intention, ineffective, resolve, harm, distort, credible, maturity, interference, strategy, unfamiliar, prevalent, and interfere. All right, here's the passage to be read. What are thinking errors? Satan tries to distract us and tempt us. He wants us to be miserable. He often tells us lies. These lies make us believe things that are not true. These lies are often thinking errors. Think about a time when you felt a lot of stress in your life. How did you deal with it? Did you respond with maturity and patience? Did you become angry or close yourself off from the world? If you made the situation worse, it was likely due to a thinking error. Thinking errors are failures in judgment that are caused by stress. They are incorrect ways of looking at the world. Because of your distorted view, you tend to act in ways that don't resolve the stress, but instead make it worse or add new stress. As children of God living in an imperfect world, all of us are at risk from a variety of thinking errors. Below is a list of 10 prevalent thinking errors and their definitions. Consider how these thinking errors interfere in your own life or in the lives of people you know. This is worth studying, okay? So we're not going to take that time, but you really want to understand. Too often we attribute what we believe is happening to an erroneous origination, okay? That they're coming at us for other reasons. So let's just go through them real quick and move on with our reading. Victimization. You feel like you are being harmed by people who have no intention of harming you. You feel like you are being harmed by people who have no intention of harming you, okay? So in other words, you're saying that they have an intention of harming you, but they don't have an intention of harming you. You feel like you are being harmed by people who in fact have no intention of harming you. Pride. You perceived status in the world is based on how you compare yourself to others. Entitlement. You deserve this or that because of your perceived status in the world. Powerlessness. You can't do this. You can't do that. You can't even try. Giving up. Because you messed up, you give up and stop trying. Justification. You can commit this sin because it is not a big deal, or you deserve a little fun. Scarcity of mentality. There is never enough fun, food, money, opportunities, and so forth. People pleasing. You must please or impress others to maintain your value as a person. Minimize or catastrophize. You distort issues, events, or choices to make them smaller or bigger than they really are. Deceit. You tell yourself something is different than the way it really is. What causes thinking errors? Thinking errors may be caused by stress, uncertainty, or difficult life circumstances. Basically, these thinking errors are a condition where you're putting the cause of your life or the activity in your life on something else, some other outward understanding or impression. So actually every one of us is going to do it sometimes. I'm not saying they're not true sometimes. You really can be a victim. You really can be feel entitled. You really are entitled, you know. But when you overstate it, when you're perceiving that what's happening is because of the other individual, so it is complicated. But I'll finish reading it. You can sort it out on your own. But it's worth reading. Page 64 here. Thinking errors may be caused by stress, uncertainty, or difficult life circumstances. As a child of God, you have been given agency. That means put on you. With that agency, you choose how to respond to the world around you. Choosing to respond in a healthy way, however, can be challenging. It is often easier to think incorrectly than to use wise judgment. Nevertheless, in the end, you are the one that chooses the way that you respond to stress. It is always possible to respond in a healthy way and overcome a thinking error. Let me tell you something about Joseph Smith that I thought was pretty profound. He would put up a group of men, like in the Council of 12, he had the Council of 50. And in that, it was in the Nauvoo day, and it was near the end of his life. And he would bring all these brethren together, members of church and non-members. And you say, listen, we're trying to move forward. He was doing this also while he was running for president, when he was preparing to run. He actually began running for president. But anyhow, in that setting, he would give a situation. He would say, come up with an answer. And they would say, you come up with it. He said, no. You come up with the answer the best that you can. And then I will look at it and give what I think is the best. And you will make that determination. You will say, okay, this apparently he's come up with a better answer. If he doesn't, then they go with the other one. But what he was trying to do is he's saying, I don't want you coming after me and trying to undermine what I'm trying to do for the best with all of my experience and wisdom. And he had greater wisdom than they did. Usually his was more altruistic and more self-aggrandizement, but he was trying to build himself up and bring everybody else with him. Other people had egotistical purposes and reasons, and so his counsel would be filtered in and or just superior, and that was because he was guided by God. His cause was just. Okay, so anyhow, he's a very amazing human being. Let's go ahead and read on. Go ahead for 65. That's against your practices. 66. Practice scenarios. We're going to discuss principle of mind. Let's read this one. I always like reading the quoted scriptures. 2 Nephi 31:20. This comes out of the Book of Mormon. Wherefore ye must press forward with a steadfastness in Christ, having a perfect brightness of hope and a love of God and of all men. Wherefore, if ye shall press forward, feast upon the word of Christ, and endure to the end, behold, thus saith the Father, ye shall have eternal life. Okay, I like that one. And it's talking about stress. Let's read this. Scenario 1. Read about each person below and then answer these questions about them. Which thinking error could this be? What could be a possible result from the thinking error? How could this person respond to his or her stress without committing the thinking error? Do you and your practice partner agree or disagree on the thinking error each person commits? If you disagree, give reasons to defend your opinion. Now, these are all stressful environments. They're going through, oh my goodness, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of them, 8. Let me go ahead and read them real quick. Stress. It is a Friday night. Yao is tired from a long week of work. Yao arrives home. Joab sees his wife. Yao sees his wife. She is busily working on dinner, laundry, and caring for the children. I could help, but I deserve a little rest, he says to himself. Okay, thinking here. Stress. Natasha has relaxed all day long. She's put off her homework until late at night. Now she's afraid of working late into the night. Thinking error. I can't do this homework. It's too hard. Natasha reasons to herself. So these are thinking errors. Something on the outside is put upon them. Again, it's coming because of stress. Stress. Tanya has made a goal. She will not look at social media during class. One afternoon, she begins to feel disappointed. Teacher is no longer entertaining. She feels trapped in the classroom. She has nothing to do. Thinking error. Tanya pulls out her smartphone. She scrolls social media app for a few minutes. It's just a little bit, she says to herself. Stress. Sam comes home tired. He is worried about his job. His wife reminds him that he promised to take out the trash tonight. Thinking error. Sam says nothing to his wife. Angrily, he grabs the trash bag and storms out of his house. Winston is upset because he received a very low score on his first test of the semester. That's a stress. Thinking error, well, I guess I'm just not cut out for this class. Winston declares he probably lowers his expectations expectations and devotes much less study time to the class. So here's the stress. When Melinda was young, classmates constantly told her she was ugly and stupid. This was difficult for young Melinda to handle. Thinking error from her childhood to today, Melinda has allowed the pain of this experience to remain inside her, using it as motivation to prove to the world that she's not ugly and stupid. As a result, she works hard to impress others. Stress. Lee is afraid if he stays home to do his homework tonight, he will miss an awesome party. Thinking error. Lee decides his homework can wait. How often do parties like this come around anyway? He reasons to himself. Here's stress for Celso. Raul's boss surprises Raul. He personally visits him. He delivers some minor feedback about his work on an ongoing project. Once he delivers the feedback to Raul, Celso smiles. He pats him on the back. He gives him some encouragement and leaves. Thinking error. Raul senses that Celso's feedback is more negative than positive. He begins to worry that he's going to be fired. He's going to be fired. Searches his mind. He recalls other such instances of feedback. I must be a terrible worker, Raul thinks. And the last one is Raquel, works the night shift at a restaurant. Her boss expects her to accept customers until 10 p.m., no exceptions. It is 9:45 p.m., the restaurant is empty, and Raquel is afraid. If a customer comes in, she won't be able to leave until well after 10 p.m. Thinking error, Raquel tells herself if nobody's in the restaurant at 9:45, it's in a closed state anyway. She closes the restaurant at 9:45 and goes home. Worth studying out, okay? Okay, scenario 2. Page 68. With your practice partner, read aloud the story below, The Three Sisters by Elder Uchtdorf. Take turns reading paragraphs as you read. Try to identify each thinking error each sister has committed. A long time ago in a distant land lived a family of 3 sisters. The first sister was sad. Everything from her nose to her chin and from her skin to her toes seemed not quite good enough to her. When she spoke, her words sometimes came out awkwardly and people laughed. When someone criticized her or forgot to invite her to something, she would blush, walk away, and find a secret spot where she could let out a sad sigh and wonder why life had turned out to be so bleak and cheerless. The second sister was mad. She thought of herself as very smart, but there was always someone else who scored higher on tests at school. She considered herself funny, fair, fashionable, fascinating, but always there seemed to be someone who was funnier, fairer, more fashionable, or even fascinating. She was never first at anything, and this she could not endure. Life was not supposed to be this way. Sometimes she lashed out at others, and it seemed that she was always one breath away from being outraged by one thing or another. Of course, this did not make her any more likable or popular. Sometimes she clenched her teeth, tightened her fists, and thought, life is so unfair. Then there was a third sister. Unlike her sad and mad sister, she was well clad. And it wasn't because she was smarter or more beautiful or more capable than her sisters. No, people sometimes avoided or ignored her too. They sometimes made fun of what she was wearing or the things she was saying. They sometimes said mean things about her. But she did not allow any of that to bother her too much. This sister loved to sing. She didn't have great pitch, and people laughed about her. But that didn't stop her. She would say, I'm not going to let other people and other opinions stop me from singing. The very fact that she kept singing made her first sister sad and her second sister mad. Many years passed, and eventually each sister reached the end of her time on earth. The first sister, who discovered again and again that there was no shortage of disappointments in life, eventually died sad. The second sister, who every day found something new to dislike, died mad. And the third sister, who spent her life singing her song with all her might and a confident smile on her face, died glad. Of course, life is never so simple, and people are never so one-dimensional as the 3 sisters in this story. But even extreme examples like these can teach us something about ourselves. If you are like most of us, you may have recognized part of yourself in 1, 2, or perhaps all 3 of these sisters. Okay? And our next one here is, let's make sure we're getting this right. Yeah, we'll go ahead and stop there. No, let's go with a 75. So we'll read this one here. Overcoming thinking errors. This is going to help you understand it. Even though you have a thinking error, you can overcome it. You can overcome thinking. What's our time? Our time is 13. Make it quick. By the end of this lesson, the objective of lesson 13, Overcoming Thinking Errors, is, by the end of this lesson, you will be able to identify 4 different types of students and the thinking errors they commit. You will be able to make recommendations to others for overcoming thinking errors. So I'll go ahead and read the read part. We're going to do a review too. Also here also. And then hand it over to you to do on your own. It's a full page. Okay, here we go. Here's the vocabulary that you'll want to memorize. Adequately, attribute as a verb, contemplate, corrupt as a verb, diminish, enable, generate, inclination, justification, misplace, paralyze, reasonably, and severe. Listen, don't feel bad if you have any of these problems because it's just life, right? Look up definitions of words. Last time you read about 10 common thinking errors. Before beginning this lesson, take a moment to review the thinking errors below. Victimization, you feel that you're being harmed by people who have no intention of harming you. Pride, you perceive status in the world is based on how you compare yourself to others. Entitlement, you deserve this or that because of your perceived status in the world. Powerlessness, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't even try. Giving up, you messed up, you give up and stop trying. Justification, you can commit this sin because it's not a big deal or you deserve a little fun. Scarce mentality, there's never enough fun, food, money, opportunities, and so on. People pleasing, you must please or impress others to maintain your value as a person. Minimize and catastrophize, you distort issues, events, or choices. You make them smaller or bigger than they really are. Deceit, you tell yourself that something is different than the way it really is. Sometimes minimizing is a good thing. You got to say, it's really not that. They made it important, but it wasn't important to you. I mean, all of these things have ways to look at it. Okay, let's read this. Page 70, bottom of page 70. In the article on the next page, Elder Gilbert, president of the BYU Pathway Worldwide, discussed 4 types of students. Read the article. Think about how each student type is an example of one or more of the 10 thinking errors. Pay attention to his advice on how to overcome those thinking errors. After reading the passage, answer the questions in the check your understanding section. Elder Gilbert happens to be my son-in-law's boss. He works with him. I could probably ask him about this. He could probably give me a whole lot more information on it. Education and the struggle for perfection, page 71. All over the world, there are students struggling with their education. They struggle to know who they are. They struggle to know what is expected of them. Education is an important part of our spiritual progression. It is a mighty struggle for perfection that allows us to improve our lives, provide for our families, and save those around us. The adversary tries to prevent and corrupt the sacred opportunities we have to get an education. I would like to share 4 types of students who struggle in their academic path and some ways they can overcome their changes. The doubter. Doubters understand the value and blessings of education, but do not think those blessings apply to them. They are the students who say, I can't do that, or I'm just not a math person, perhaps because of past education struggles or the negativity and criticism of others. These students feel incapable of learning and improving. While these challenges are real and difficult, students can learn to resist and overcome these feelings of self-doubt. And kind of like in this lesson, when I'm talking and I'm reading this stuff, if you're understanding what I'm saying, great. If you're not, listen to it again, listen to it again, listen to it again. And eventually you'll understand it. I mean, it'll go away. You will understand this. I'm not speaking Latin. I'm speaking something that you're learning, okay? This is doable. Part of overcoming doubt is learning who you are and understanding your potential. Gordon B. Hinckley once said, you have the potential to become anything you set your mind to. It often requires you to surround yourself with people who believe in you. I'm one of those. Another way to overcome doubt is not to be paralyzed by the risk of failure. If you try your best, I promise the Lord will make up the difference. I'm not even in your world. I believe you can do this, but you have to do it, okay? And the Lord is there watching. He's the one who's conscious of what you're doing. If you struggle with doubt, I invite you to believe in yourself, do your best, and never give up when you struggle, and say a prayer. The student with misplaced zeal. Students with misplaced zeal do not see the connection between getting a formal education and other righteous endeavors in life. This can be found in women who don't view education as important as their future role as mothers. It can be found in men who do not see their education as purposeful work compared to church callings or other priesthood responsibilities. These students need to know that although church service and parenting are two very important roles, the Lord will still expects more from them. Education can be meaningful and spiritually uplifting, but only if you know that what you are studying conforms to the will of the Lord, and if you consecrate your educational efforts to Him. If you do this, your education will prepare you to excel in all your roles, whether in the workplace, at home, or in church callings. While contemplating your goals for the future, please ponder how you can consecrate your knowledge, skills, and educational experiences to God. And I mean, seriously, everything we're doing, if you don't put God in the center of it, your motivations are different. I mean, anyhow. the student who is going it alone. These students tend to walk the path of education slowly, with little commitment or direction. They view their academic experience with some indifference and are happy simply to just get by. Oftentimes, these students do not understand that although earning a degree is a great accomplishment, the Lord will still require their work and effort for many years after school. Getting an education is just one step in the larger plan our Father in heaven has prepared for his children. By committing themselves more to their education, these students will be able to grow in their studies, families, and service to God. The basic survivor. Here's a basic survivor. Students in this category work very hard, perhaps 60, 70, or even 80 hours a week. They are so busy they convince themselves they cannot pursue an education. I can't work on my education right now, they say. I've got too much going on. I'm working too much. The problem for these students is that they will be stuck working that same job. They're making the same amount of money forever. For these students, there's no future. It reminds me of a story Elder Savin told about a boy who never unrolled his sleeping bag because he didn't want to roll it up again in the morning. All night long, the boy froze in his tent simply because he was trying to save 5 minutes of work. To these students, I promise that if you will spend the time now to educate yourself, to develop your mind, to get a credential or acquire a skill, it will bless you for the rest of your life. Those blessings are worth the time. Okay? And now you can check your outline. Here's your review over all that. Let's go ahead and read this quoted scripture. Doctrine and Covenants. Read and discuss the principle of learning. DNC 135:5, again from the Doctrine and Covenants. And because thou hast seen thy weakness, thou shalt be made strong, even unto the sitting down in the place which I prepared in the mansions of my Father. Okay, that's good. We'll stop there.
Si realmente desea asistir a las universidades presentadas en este programa, puede lograr ese objetivo de hábitos diarios de estudio continuo que incluye en su misión los requisitos. El capítulo 7 del nuevo Predicad mi Evangelio es específico en el requisito de que aquellos misioneros que utilicen esta misión para edificar una sólida red de miembros y compañeros sean bendecidos por la presencia constante de experiencias impulsadas por la educación. No dejes que esta misión se quede corta en todo lo que puede ser orar, estudiar, aprovechar las bendiciones del don de lenguas y Dios bendecirá tus esfuerzos con éxito aquí y después de tu misión. Tú eres el amo de tu futuro siempre y cuando sigas las impresiones del Señor.
Puede asistir a cualquiera de estas instituciones en línea, BYU Idaho o Ensign College, después de completar el programa EnglishConnect, a través de BYU Paswa Worldwide Paswa a precios reducidos tanto para miembros de la Iglesia como para amigos de la Iglesia.